All right, so here it says the figure depicts the average monthly profit for best used car sales for the previous year. Now we're supposed to estimate the rates of change at all those places. What are the approximate input values of the three inflection points? And then sketch a rate of change graphs. So guess what? We're not going to do all of those. We're going to skip A and B because trying to get a slope on all those points are going to be kind of silly. But what I want to kind of emphasize is kind of that rate, sketch a rate of change graph. So what we're going to do is we're going to just kind of have our graph here, and we know it's going to have some positives and it's going to have some negatives. So we'll go and draw something down the center. Now here we'll have a slope of 0, and here's 0, and there's 0. So, we'll have something around here is going to be 0. A little bit further down is going to be 0. And about maybe here will be 0 as well. And maybe right there is going to be 0 as well, it looks like actually. So then even further. So it kind of looks like that goes like that. All right, so what's it doing here? Well, here um, we have it's got a positive slope, and what it's doing is it's decreasing because it's going to get close to here. So basically we have a steep, it's going down close to 0, and so what we'll have is it's coming down, and that gets us to that first part. Now it's going down here, and about there is going to be an inflection point. That whole thing is negative, so it's going to have a negative, and so it's going to have that inflection point, which is going to be the min, and then it's going to go back up to that 0. And at this point, we're going to have a maximum, and it's going to be a little higher, so it's going to, let's put it up here. And so it's going to do the same thing, and then it's going to come back down to 0. And then guess what? We're going to have another inflection point here, but this one's going to be negative, and so it's going to come down here, and we'll go through that, and then it's going to come back up, go through 0, and it's got a slight positive over there, and so we can go up a little bit like that, and that should be good. Okay. All right, so that's kind of how we need to look about, making our graphs. We think about what it's doing along the way, and we can do it. And so we don't actually have to have all of those actual points, and we don't have to know exactly what those inflection points are. But that's kind of, we're just estimating on the graph where they are. And so we got that one. We got, well, and that one didn't even go through that, and that one. And so we know our maxes and our mins are going to be at those points for the inflection points. And so we can draw a semi-smooth curve through all those and follow kind of basically the slope graph for that function that was given. Okay. Again, we didn't find all the stuff they asked us for, but this is because it's going to take us for a long time on this paper, and we just wanted to kind of get the real rough estimate of our slope graph. All right. Here, we're supposed to indicate the input values for which a graph has no derivative and explain why the derivative does not exist at those points. All right, so let's look here. On the first one, well, we have something going here and we have something going here. So what does that mean? Well, we have a vertical asymptote at x equals 0. And so that is going to be a place where there's no derivative. So no derivative at 1, vertical slope at x equals 0. We're not going to have one here either at x equals 3 because we have, it's not continuous. And we also have one here, and that's at x equals 4, and it's not continuous. Okay. Now we're supposed to sketch a slope graph for the function, and I probably don't have enough pages here, so what we'll do is we'll copy that and paste it there. All right, so here, what do we have? Well, we have this discontinuity, and so what we can do is we're going to have, this is all going down negative. Let's see, this should be negative again. Those are going to be basically, I think then, so what we really are going to have is mostly down in the negative part. And so we had our x is 0. We had something there, so we probably better draw that a little further out that way. And so let's see here. What is it doing? It's getting steeper as we go here. So it's getting more negative the closer to 0 we have. And so what we have, it's getting steeper the more we get this way. So it's going down like that. We also have a break at 3 and 4. So let's call this 3 and this 4. And so what was it doing on that one? Well, here it was decreasing steeply and then getting closer and closer to 0 at 3. So it was really steep here, and then it was decreasing as we got closer and closer to 3. And then we had a break. And then we had horizontal line, so that when you take the derivative of that, that's going to be 0, and you take a derivative of that, that's going to be 0. And so basically we'll have something like this. We'll have a 0, and it's only going up to 5, so we'll have another circle at 5, and then we'll draw those lines there in between. Okay, because then again, now um, if we have a line, and so it's x plus 3, and we take the derivative, that's just going to give us a number 1 or whatever it is. And so we don't know what that number is, and so basically we have just that number there. So we just have those things there. So that would be this one. Now what about this one? Well, this one looks like we have an asymptote here because it's coming close but not there. We have one here, and we have one here. So there's going to be 3 places this vertical asymptote. So no derivative at the 3 vertical asymptotes, and that's going to be at the x equals 0, x equals a, and x equals b. Okay, so those are going to be our 3 asymptotes there. All right, so now what does that give us? So then we have to now draw our um, our function from there. And so what does that give us? So we're going to have, let's see, really steep here, so it's going to be really negative. It's going to come up to close to 0. We're going to have our we're going to have our peak here basically, or our inflection point, and then it's slowly going to be 0, but it's going to be now it's going this way, and it's going to get really steep again. And so I think what we're going to have is all going to be in the positives. So we can draw this one in an opposite axis, and we have actual points. We don't, so it's somewhere between A and B. So if we call this A and this B, then we know that we're going to get very steep close to B, we're going to get very steep close to A on both sides, and we're going to have inflection points at the in between A and B. So we're going to have inflection points there, so that's going to be actually going to be at 0, and that's going to be at 0, and keep that there. And this was increasing, very steep here, very steep here. So something like that. And then this one, it's kind of come down and then come back up like that. So it's very steep on each of those pieces increasing, because it's always increasing, and it's very steep on the pieces close to the A and close to the B and the 0. So that's kind of where we have those going up kind of towards infinity. And then our two inflection points were right there and right there, which at 0. And so those should be the two pieces of the graph after we draw our derivative. All right, so now what do we have? We're supposed to sketch the slope graph. Okay, so what do we have? It looks like we're going to have mostly, I think it's going to be mostly in kind of a combination again. So f of negative 2 is 5. So f of negative 2 is 5. So it's somewhere over here, and that's up here. Okay. Our f2 is, so we need f prime of negative 2. So, okay, so yeah, so we have to think about how that works. So this is going to be our f prime of t. Okay. And so this is our t. So this one, what we need to look at um, is slope is positive for t less than 2. So here's 2. F prime of 2 does not exist, so there's not going to be anything here. So it's positive for less than 2. And so less than 2 is going to be going up here. Greater than 2 is going to be down here. So at negative 2 is going to be 5. So I think maybe something, it's going to be a circle. And basically all we know is it's going to be maybe going up like that. You know, oh, okay, not like that, like that. And this one, we don't know how negative it is, so let's just call it down here. And, it could be going down really quick for all we know. It could be doing a gradual, it could be doing anything. We don't know. So a lot of this is going to be conjecture as far as, is it smooth going up? Is it just, how does that look? And this could be, steep going down. So we really don't know that. The key thing we found on this one, though, is that disconnect there, that f prime of 2 does not exist. And so that's going to be about the only piece that we know for sure that we can show. The rest of it, it's positive and it's negative. That's all we have. All right, so that's all I have for this. Hopefully that will help.